Alright guys, so be prepared for a much longer video. I'm going to go over combat. Um, that isn't as complicated as I might make it seem, but anyways, we're going to go over combat, the different damage types, and like the skills your units and everything have to use. So, first and foremost, we should probably go over like the attack ranges of your different units. Um, Typically, your standard unit can only attack what is in front of it, behind it, and to its left or its right. Your generals follow the same attack pattern, so there's nothing really different there unless they have a specific skill, which I'll show you that in like 3 or 4 seconds. Um, with we'll say okay, the different skills that will affect your attack range and all that are range, which is mainly for your ranged units, obviously, and reach. Um, Range will be listed as such. Um, um, I hope you can see that. I can see it, but I don't know. Okay, there you go. Range will allow pretty much any unit with range to attack any unit, war machine, or structure within a 2 square radius of it. And reach basically just allows the unit to attack diagonally. Yeah, diagonally, if you can get my southern accent, sorry. So, in essence, a unit with reach basically has a 1 square radius of attack because it can attack diagonally, front and back. Um, Whenever you are entering combat, you need to announce combat, like say that your elven archer is going to attack this human spearman. Yeah, the names are pretty generic right now just because I'm in like playtesting and all that, but yeah, anyways. Just, announce what you want to do, like as far as what unit is attacking what. Now, after that is announced, once you announce combat with whatever, they're technically whatever units are attacking they'd be engaged in combat. After you do that, you can start using your skills. As you'll notice, pretty much every unit has a specific skill that you can use. Trying to get it to focus, but yeah, I'll try harder next time. Sorry, guys. Every unit has a skill attached to it. Even if it's just something as simple as, just reach or range or whatever. So, there we go. If you want to, you can read that. But yeah, every unit has a skill. During the combat phase is when you're going to use the vast majority of the skills, but obviously, if it says something else, then you use it when it says you can use it. Um, Generals usually have at least 3 skills. They can't be the target of their own skills unless the skill itself says so. So keep that in mind whenever you're entering combat and you want to use skills on particular units. Most skills have like a radius of what they work, so you'll need to make sure that your generals are within the skill radius to use it. Um, once once you've done that and you've applied the skills you want to use, then you get into the actual combat. Now there are 3 different types of combat in War of the Veils. One is your basic, down to earth melee combat, which is just your units beating the hell out of each other. The second is your ranged combat, which is going to be like your archers and catapults and stuff like that. The third is magic. There's magic combat, and I'll get into that in a different video. But magic combat operates almost identically to standard combat. So keep that in mind too whenever you roll over to the the magic video. The magic combat is just the same, except you're using a different stat on the card. So once you've gotten to your combat phase, once you announce that your units are going to fight whatever and you've used your skills, then you simply make it excuse me, it's a little weird down here in the basement. Then you make your attack roll. Your attack roll is simply, like I said in the intro or in the gameplay basics video, everything operates on a D10 roll. So it doesn't matter if it's combat or magic combat, even like random skill checks that I have in the game are all done on a D10. So there's no need in having, 90 different sets of dices or all that. You can have 10 D10s and you're good. So let's say that we'll say this warlock wants to attack this human soldier. You would go through the standard, hey, I'm attacking this, you use your skills and all that. So what you would do is, if you'll look at that blue shield right there, that is this particular unit's defense value. Now, that means that on this attack roll, I would need to roll a 3 or above to hit this human soldier. So I'll roll a 7, so I hit it. Once that happens, the other unit, the defending unit, gets a defense roll, which means that they would have to roll their defense value or under. So this human soldier has a defense value of 3, so it would need to roll a 3 or under on the D10 roll, and damn, it rolled a 2. So it was a successful defense. In that particular scenario, like, the Elven Warlock has an attack value, which there'll be a different video with the card layouts and all that, but I'm just going to do this as a reminder. The attack value is the red sword up in the top, and it's a 3. So typically, if the defense roll had failed, the Warlock would do 3 damage to this human soldier. But since the defense roll was successful, only 1 damage is taken. Now, that is pretty much standard combat. As far as melee goes, ranged works the same way. There are, and like I said, magic works pretty much the same way, except instead of using the blue shield, you use that black one there with the little pentagram on it, and it's the same concept. Now, you might be asking yourself, if you're like a D&D player or maybe even Warhammer or whatever, there's a such thing as a natural 10, and there's a such thing as a rolling a 1, like a critical miss. You are correct. So, with that being said, a critical attack is rolling a 10 on your attack roll. If you roll a 10 on the attack roll, there is no defense roll for the other unit. And you get a +1 to the damage done, and a natural 10, regardless of any combat modifiers that might take place. If you roll a natural 10, that's it, it's done, it's an automatic hit. Doesn't matter what modifiers are in play, boom, it got hit. So that is your standard critical attack. A critical miss means that you roll a 1 during your attack roll. A 1 is basically just something weird happened and your unit ended up stabbing itself or something, so it only does 1 damage to itself. It ignores its attack value and just does 1 damage to itself. Now, on the opposite end, on the defense spectrum, if you roll a natural 10 on the defense roll, it's a critical defense. No damage is taken, and the defending unit actually does a counterattack and does 1 damage to the attacking unit. So I know that was a lot to kind of digest, but believe it or not, it's really easy because it's just simply figuring out numbers on a D10 and following what's supposed to happen. There's no like convoluted, like complicated, unnecessary steps or whatever. It's literally just what you roll compared to a stat, and then you follow through with it. One thing, a couple other things about combat that I should probably go further into is that when units are engaged in combat, they can't move, obviously, but there is a such thing as a flee attempt. Now, if you want to flee combat, you make a D10 roll, and if you roll a 7 or above, you can flee. Whatever, and again, I'll go over the card layout in other videos, but this is just me giving a refresher. If you make a successful flee attempt, whatever your movement is, that little boot right there, you get to move that many spaces in any direction away from the unit that you're fleeing from. Obviously, there has to be an open space and all that good stuff. So, but yeah, that's one aspect of combat, is you can actually flee it and try to get away. There's a slight difference in an attack roll and a successful attack. Like, your attack roll is simply just the initial roll to see if you hit. Now, once that happens, you get the defense roll. If the defense roll fails, then it's considered a successful attack, and full damage, whatever the attack value is done. So that is a successful attack. Like I said before, the different damage types is something that you need to kind of be wary of, because there are certain units that have certain modifiers to damages. There are certain spells that'll negate some damages, certain types of damages, and so forth and so forth. So just to kind of refresh it, the standard types of damage are melee, ranged, and unit magic. Player spells, like your world magics and your actions, which will be in a different video, so don't worry. Those are certain types of damage, but there's also a specific type of damage that does not get negated no matter what happens, and that's just simple game mechanic damage, such as the counterattack that I talked about with the attack roll. The counterattack counts as game mechanic damage. Your critical hits, the misses, with your magic combat, your master spells, your backfires, your spell backfires, they're all considered game mechanic damage, and nothing negates that, even if the spell or ability or whatever it says prevent all damage or prevent the next 2 damage, it doesn't prevent game mechanic damage. But I think that's really about it, as far as combat goes and the damage types and like when to use skills. So just to give a quick little recap, when you enter into combat, state which units are going to attack what. Then during the combat phase, you pick which skills you want to use. because some of the skills actually say it uses the attack for the turn or uses the combat phase or whatever, so that way that unit can only use that skill and doesn't get a standard attack that turn because it used that skill. Um, and then once you use the skills, you make your attack roll, you roll your d10, you figure out what you need to hit by going by the blue shield, if it'll focus. So you would need a 3 or higher to hit the spearman. And then once that, if you make a successful attack roll, then a defense roll is made, which would be the same concept. You roll your d10. If it's a 3 or under, it's a successful defense roll. If it's a 3, if it's over a 3, then it's a failed defense and full damage is done. Again, critical attacks are a natural 10. It's a +1 to damages, or +1 to all damage, and it hits regardless of any combat modifiers that are there. A critical miss is rolling a 1 on the attack roll, and the unit basically just does 1 damage to itself. On the flip side, the critical defense is a natural 10 rolled on the defense roll, and that means that no damage is taken, and the defending unit actually does a counterattack against the attacking unit, and it deals 1 damage to the attacking unit. It sounds complicated. It's not. You just have to go through the motions through a couple of combat phases, and you catch on real quick. Obviously, there's hit points and everything. All of your units and structures and war machines have hit points. I'll go into that a little bit later whenever I explain in the other video the card layout. But, there's that. But as far as combat goes, damage types, and skills, I think that covers that for this video. So yeah, thanks for hanging in there with that one. If you have to rewatch the video to understand it or ask questions or whatever in the comments below, or contact me directly, I'll be more than happy to explain it better. Or better yet, just ask for a playtesting, or come out when I'm doing a playtesting and give it a whirl yourself. But anyways, pressing on to the next video, and I appreciate you guys for suffering through this video. I know it was long, but I appreciate it. So yeah, off to the next one.